Flight boss, bitch, you know, for sure. You're now listening to the Mind of an Antares Moon. I'm the Archangel Uriel, and I'm here to carry out God duties and motherfucking responsibilities. And right now I want to talk about the three most important things when it comes to talking about the houses. Now, every dynamic we go through and fear of reality we go through, we have to look at it through another dimensional lens. So right here, the houses have way more than three-dimensional lens, but there's three most important ones. Now, first of all, you have the sign of your houses, the planets in your houses, and now then we're going to get to the angles. So basically, the houses itself represents the life situation. The sign in the houses represents the temperament of that life situation, and the planets represents what's actually going on in that life situation. For an example, the house. Each house has a life situation, so I'm gonna break it down simple. The first house is your personality and personal issues situation. So anything that deals with you personally, and then how you personally express yourself. That life situation is the first house. Now, the second house is things that you value, what you have to offer. So anything that you have, what you have, even if you don't have shit that's material. You could be a bum in the street. You have a talent. If you have something inside you, whatever it is, value it. And it becomes a second house archetype. See what I'm saying? Now, third, that's the life situation of the second house, the things you have. So that's why it's important to appreciate what you don't have and appreciate what you have. So when we go to the third house represents the familiar places and faces life situation. The communication life situation, your surroundings, how you communicate with your surroundings situation, familiar places, faces, and things situation. So anytime associates, people in your surroundings, things in your surroundings, things that you have to get an understanding of, your basic, like that life situation when you're amongst familiarity, like things like people you may or may not know, but you are aware of them because they live in your area of location, or you know what I'm saying, the school you go to, your basic surroundings. That's anytime you have to communicate with your surroundings, that's a third house life situation. And most of the time you're communicating with your surroundings amongst the people in your surrounding, neighbors, friends, associates, you know what I'm saying, and things of that nature. Now, the fourth house is the life archetype of home. So how you emotionally feel within inside yourself, or domestic issues when you're dealing with family, or dealing with issues that's relative to your emotional awareness, being in situations that you may feel uncomfortable in, and you feel like you're not in place or not at home. That's the fourth house life archetype. You know what I'm saying? Anytime you're in situations like that where you feel most comfortable at and where you feel most uncomfortable at, you're putting yourself in a fourth house archetype. Now, fifth house life path, life situation is entertainment, expression, and creativity. So when you're out having fun, being super expressive, being a form of entertainment, or you're indulging in some type of form of entertainment by someone or some other place, or you jumping into your creative aspects of your life, that's the life situation of the fifth house. So anytime you're expressing yourself, getting into creativity, any forms of entertainment, you know what I'm saying, things of that nature, that's jumping into the fifth house life situation. Now, the sixth house life situation is work, routine, what you do on a day-to-day basis. So if you're a person who get up in the morning and brush their teeth every day, that becomes a routine. So anything that become a routine becomes something that you do on a day-to-day basis. And anything that you do on a day-to-day basis becomes sixth house life archetype. So a life situation for the sixth house is if you got a job, if you get up and you have a schedule to do, you do something every day. Some people get up and cook themselves breakfast every day. That's a routine. You see how all houses is placed in something that everybody do every day, and you have no choice. That's the life situation of the sixth house. Things that you work hard on, things that you work towards. You know what I'm saying? Things that you want to see grow after you planted the seed from the second house. You know what I'm saying? Sixth house is an earth house. So you know what I'm saying? Now this is working towards maintaining and nurturing that plant. in order for that plant to receive the maximum exposure it's going to get, which when it reaches the 10th house, which is the 3rd earth house. But we're not there yet. So the life path, the life house, the life situation of the 6th house is anytime you putting in work, anytime you do something in a routine. Hell, you may even argue with your partner every day. If it turned into a motherfucking routine, that's something you're going to have to work on in your life. And 9 times out of 10, you're going to have to look at what planets is in your 6th house or what's angling that goddamn thing. You see what I'm saying? Now, we go to the 7th house. 7th house life archetype is based on communication because it's air, but it's the relationship. And it's a relationship amongst everything, not just people. Don't let an astrologer tell you it's just people. It's people, places, and things. How you relate to shows, how you relate to movies. And 9 times out of 10, the most important thing when you're amongst this earth is how you're going to relate to others like yourself. Other beings, other species like you, other animals. So yeah, that's going to be a form of communication. Yeah, that's going to be a form of knowledge and thinking. But at the center point of the 7th house, we have to start extracting things through Libra when we want to talk about as it being factored and filtered through the human. But as far as it being in a house, is how you relate to everything. See, each house rules a sign. Libra rules the 7th house. You know what I'm saying? Well, the 7th house rules Libra. You know what I'm saying? It's the houses first before we even have our description upon them. I'm going to make a video, which I already got a video, on how we even came up with the descriptions of how the signs play out. Before you can even look into the sky and say, oh, that's a Gemini and it's shaped like this, and that's why it's this, or that's an Aries, that's a Ram, so it's shaped like that. So before you can even get to that, I'm going to let you know where they got that shit from. And that's from the singular space, but that's another story. From the 12 directions that God looked and made a 360. And it had no choice but to come back to one, and it comes down. But that's another story. And that's why it's clockwise when the ages is going. But when we want to talk about the 7th house, it's the life situation when you're relating. So anytime you're relating to someone, relating to something, or relating to something that's outside of you, or relating to something that's inside of you, you're in the 7th house life situation. Now, when we get to the 8th house, the 8th house is water, but it's froze water, so it's fixed. So the archetype of the life situation when it comes to 8th house is intentions, things that you may intend to do, but have a desire for a long term, not a short term, a long term. So right here, this deals with doing things in moderation, or this deals with life situations when you're supposed to do things in moderation, and if you're not, it's going to balance you. When you're overindulging, you know what I'm saying, when you're into things of like jealousy, greed, you know what I'm saying, this don't necessarily have to be you playing it, you could be receiving this energy. But anytime you're in these type of situations where you're experiencing the connection motives. For an example, you have your motives, and whoever you're relating to have their motives, right? So since the 2nd house plays upon you valuing what you have to offer, the 8th house is the direct opposite to the 2nd house. So it's valuing what someone else have to offer. And 9 times out of 10, if you're another person presenting something to you, 9 times out of 10, whatever they have to offer is an intention. It's something they intend to do. So you have to learn how to value others' intentions, others' possessions, others, and have a fixed way of how you feel about yours, and then come to a conclusion to where theirs at, and then you play upon it. Now, it could deal with manipulation in so many ways, but manipulation isn't a negative thing. You could manipulate positive. It's just a lot of people manipulate a lot of negative situations thinking that they're going to have a positive outcome. But if it's a selfish positive outcome, then overall it goes back to negative in the long run. See, you have to rewire charges. When you're receiving too much negative, you have to revert it to positive. When you're receiving too much positive, you have to revert it to negative to bounce back to positive, because the universe is always on a balance scale of positive from an overall perspective. So anytime you're dealing with situations like this, trying to be enlightened about a situation, or being in the dark about a situation, or not fully understanding about a situation, and having some sense of something being this way or not, then you're dealing with an 8th house life situation. You know what I'm saying? So anytime you're in the dark about something and you need to be enlightened about something, that's an 8th house life situation. You know what I'm saying? Now, ninth house life situation. Now, this is the enlightened house. So this is the wisdom, the knowledge, how you're going to learn. So anytime you're learning, anytime you're experiencing something, and that's why the 8th house is first, because you're going to be in the dark about something. Then the 9th house is when you get enlightened about it and you experience the 8th house. So now when it gets into the 9th house, you have wisdom about it. You have knowledge about it. You're able to teach it to someone else so they can do it, so they won't do what you had to do. Famous words from Jay-Z. Jay-Z is a Sagittarius. I did this so you wouldn't have to do it. See what I'm saying? He may not know why he said that, but I'm giving you the basic archetype of why certain outlooks look at certain things in certain ways. So with the Sagittarius 9th house life situation, anytime you're learning, gaining wisdom, experiencing, and trying to learn some type of philosophical meaning behind whatever situation you're going through, you're dealing with a 9th house situation. Now, when we go to the 10th house, the 10th house is status. So 10th house is like reputation, status. So one thing you need to understand is you can never control what how someone see you. You can only control what you present to someone. So the 10th house is always trying to climb the ladder, always trying to be the boss, always trying to be the crutch for the outer, because they feel like they have enough responsibility. Now, when I say they, I'm not meaning as in a person or as the 10th house is a person. I just mean as in the energy of a person who may have a lot of planets in the 10th house, or may have the representation of the sign that rules the 10th house, which is Capricorn. And right here, creating goals and reaching the status quo of that goal is the basic archetype of the 10th house. So anytime you have a plan and you want to learn about this plan and get through it, or take a step by step, or learn the way someone else did it, or bring something into reality, you're dealing with a 10th house life situation. So if you have a goal, you're jumping into a 10th house life situation. If you want to be seen a certain way, remember, you can't just talk it or try to do it. You have to lead by example. You know what I'm saying? The 10th house understand this more than any other sign or any other house. You're not going to be respected for what you're offering unless you present it, or it's presented in a way that people can see it being a positive noted from you. And vice versa, you could talk about money, but people are not going to respect you about money unless they see you with a lot of it. You see what I'm saying? So the 10th house archetype right here is a basic situation of reeling things into reality. And anytime you have a goal, you come up with a step-by-step plan, or you just may have a vision. But reaching the status quo of a goal is reaching the highest maximum prosperity of whatever goal you're trying to reach. So it's the status quo house. So anytime you care about your reputation, care about how people may see you, care too much about how people may look at you on social media, or try too hard to force a reputation, or on a positive note, try to obtain your goals, try to come up with creative new initiating plans to take step by step, try to reach the status quos, you're jumping into a 10th house life archetype situation. Now, 11th house. 11th house is, now it's air also, but before we even trickle down to, we want to talk about the sign. We're talking about the actual directions that God looked at. Now with the 11th house, this is the house of information. This is the house of scientifical knowledges, but from an abstract realm of reality. So it's basically pulling things that we can't understand and try to will them into things that we can understand. And if we can't come into an understanding, at the end of the day, it could be an organized type of situation that everyone can apply ideas to. This is why quote-unquote Aquariuses like to match this with this with this with this, and end up having a whole organization of people all applying all ideas to come to one idea in general already. This is what makes them humanitarians also. Now, when we come to the 11th house archetype, anytime you're in an unfamiliar place, anytime you're around unfamiliar people. Now, for an example, it could be switched up in so many ways. You could be in an unfamiliar place with someone familiar, or you could be in a familiar place with someone unfamiliar, and it could go vice versa and switcheroo. So how you conduct yourself in the public arena, being around unfamiliar places, faces, and things. Anytime you're introduced to something new, anytime you're introduced to, like, for an example, this is why new technologies, new electronics and stuff like that. It's like it's a small manifestation of a form of being introduced to something new. And 11th house archetype is enticed by these type of things, and they want to gain and extract information from it. So anytime you're getting into your phone, anytime you're learning about new things, new sciences, trying to introducing yourself to new people, learning new people, not being so much into ego, but letting other people receive shine, and that's how you receive shine. Putting yourself in situations where you could be highly relatable and highly opposing at the same time, which will make you unique. Anytime you happen in situations like this, that's the 11th house archetype, life situation. So anytime you're in a situation being unfamiliar, you might have just moved to a city that you know nobody in that city. You jumped into an 11th house situation. You may have just moved from a city that nobody know you was from, and you just moved into your cousin's city, and your cousin know everybody there, but nobody know your whereabouts. But you know everybody in that city, but they don't know your back end. So you got a fresh breath of fresh air to present yourself any way you want to. That's an 11th house life archetype situation. You know what I'm saying? Now we're gonna get to the 12th house. The 12th house life situation be the subconscious. Things you already subconsciously do, how you already subconsciously act, and how you connect with the collectiveness, whether it's amongst feelings, thoughts, emotions, inspirations, passions, talents, creativity, whatever. How you connect with others, that's the 12th house archetype. So, and it's how you subconsciously do it already. So, for an example, anytime the things that you do subconsciously, anytime you jump into a creative mode, but you don't bring it into existence, it's something that's staying in your mind. Anytime you start to feel other people's emotions, start to try to understand other people's feelings and factors and things like that, you're jumping into a 12th house archetype. So this house, this situation, this life situation could be tricky, because you can think you know or feel another person's feelings or subconscious or something like that, and start building programs around that, and you could be completely wrong. So that's aka an illusion. And the 12th house and Neptune's rule here, and that is the illusion planet. So it can create illusions. So it's hard to decipher through illusions at times, and by us living in an overall illusion, a lot of times we can subconsciously indulge into that. So it's important to make sure you know what's in your 12th house, or to know what's not in your 12th house, and to know where your 12th house lord is at, so you can know what actual illusion you're putting yourself in all the time. So anytime you're doing things subconsciously and not subconsciously, and subconsciously acting and things like that, and getting into your feelings and emotions and connecting it with others, you're jumping into a 12th house life archetype. Now, when we want to talk about the planets is what actually is going on into the houses. So I already got a video breaking down each planet in the houses. Now, the planets is like basic temperaments. If we want to go quick, let's just do something real quick, real fast. The sun is the light, moon the dark, Mercury the communication, Venus the love, Mars the intentions, the passion. You can say the hatred for shorter lack of words. You know what I'm saying? Jupiter, the learning, the wisdom. You know what I'm saying? Saturn, the foundation, the practicality. You know what I'm saying? Uranus, the changes. You know what I'm saying? That you're going to be receiving. Neptune, the illusions, dreams, and creativity and imagination you're going to be having. You know what I'm saying? Pluto, the deep transformative situations you're going to be having. So once you just take those basic words, now we just talked about the basic life situations when I broke down each house. So when you take one of those planets and put it in a house, it makes sense. So now you'll be able to know why you've been experiencing what you've been experiencing in your life for this whole time. For an example, now if we say you have a Gemini third house, right? So we know the third house is an archetype of communication amongst familiar places and faces. And if we know we have Mars in the third house, if we know Mars represents intentions, passion, but if we want to say lack of words, hatred or something like that, then we know what kind of third house you're going to have. You're going to have aggressive communication amongst familiar people in your life, or amongst the familiar places in your life. You're going to have intentions to do certain things. You're going to have certain passions for certain people in your life, or this going to be happening to you. See, when we talk about the houses, not only that you may give off this energy, but you may be the person receiving this energy from others. or from places or things. You see what I'm saying? Now, that's the second most important. Now, the third most important about the house archetypes is the basic angles. Now, when we talk about the angles, we know when we're talking about the planets as your basic planetary alignment in your natal, the sextile and the trines are the positives, and the squares and the oppositions are the negatives, right? Now, when we get to the house archetype, we have to flip it. The sextiles and the trines are the negatives, and the squares and the oppositions are the positives. Now here, when you have your houses, this is a no choice thing. This is your life path. This is your spiritual path. Because if your sun is what you're consciously aware of, if your moon is what you're subconsciously aware of, then your horizon is going to be your unconscious. So we could break that down. We could say your sun is your yin, which is what you're consciously aware of, your physical, your solid. Your moon is your subconscious, your yin, your soul, you know what I'm saying? And your horizon is your spirit, your space, your gas. You know what I'm saying? The moon will be your time, your experience. You experience your feelings and emotions here. So that's your time, your moon, your soul. Your horizon is your spirit. Things you already, how people already see you before they even know you. The spirit you carrying. You know what I'm saying? The idea of you. You know what I'm saying? Your rising is the unconscious. So when somebody knock you out and you can't use your actions or your reactions, you can't use your light or your dark, you can't use your sun or your moon, you still breathing though. That's that spirit of life in you. People still see how you look. People still see the type of body movements you had when you got knocked out unconscious. You see what I'm saying? That's your rising overall. So when we want to talk about it as breaking it down, the spiritual path of your life is your life situations, which start at your rising. And how you conduct it is going to be your light and your darks, your moon and your sun, and the rest of your little baby tools you have, which is your chakras when it comes down to your Mercury and your motherfucking Venus and your motherfucking Mars and Jupiter and all that shit. All that good shit. You know what I'm saying? So that's a basic planet archetype. So, you know, when we talk about your spiritual path, you might as well say it starts with your rising. And then it goes into your second house, third house. And then people look at it linear, but it's like the circle. When you look at your pie graph, it's your circle, your geometrical shape when you align all the planets together. But actually the pie wheel, that's actually your spiritual path starting at your rising. And then when you do your 360 as a soul, and then when it comes down into physicality, you doing it with all your planets. You know what I'm saying? But it's the same shit. That's what God did. Did a 360. Witnessed 12 directions. You know what I'm saying? You could break it down into, oh, he only 4 directions. That direction, that direction, that direction. Then that's just the cardinal signs. I don't care how you align the pie up, but if you're going to get 360, it's just going to break down into 12 signs. So that 13 sign shit, y'all need to